effort to bring this country together. He has done it before. Post-2007, he was the team leader of the ODM Pentagon then in what we call the Kenya National Dialogue Reconciliation process that was spearheaded by Kofi Annan. So my party leader, His Excellency Musalia Mudavadi, is a man of peace. Our party itself is called Amani National Congress. So our party is a party of peace. And our slogan is Uchumi Bora. So I want to state those facts to that extent. Number two, our stand on the BBI as ANC party is that we support the BBI process and we support this document, but we support it with amendments that we have suggested. Okay. And our party leader, after consulting the critical organs of the party, he stated clearly that we want the following clauses amended, and you have rightly stated them, and I want to restate them here. Number one, we want to safeguard the independence of judiciary. The proposal to create the judiciary ombudsman is a good proposal. Okay. We want somebody who will be the public protector to look at the issues of the public in the judiciary. But we don't want the president to appoint the judiciary ombudsman because that would be interfering with the independence of the judiciary, because definitely the appointee of the president will be a prefect of judges. We don't want somebody who will be a prefect of judges. We want a public protector. So we are suggesting that let the Chief Justice, who chairs the Judiciary Service Commission, appoint through a public vetting process, like other public servants, the Judiciary Ombudsman. Secondly, we want the strengthening of the Senate. Okay. As it has been proposed by the BBI report, the Senate has been downgraded, both in form and substance. Number one, what they have done, they have said that the women representatives are going to leave the National Assembly and join the Senate. Then they have deleted Article 123 on who is the leader of the delegation. Right now, in terms of representing the county, terms of who votes when it and comes who to vote, yes, to voting. When on the floor of the Senate, it is the leader of the delegation that votes on behalf of a county. Right now, there is no clear proposal on among the two senators who will be the leader or the head of delegation. We want that to be entrenched back, because it will be at the discretion of the Speaker to decide who votes and whose votes counts, and that is not what we want. We want might manipulate the independence of the Senate independence itself. Of the Senate in taking critical decisions on resource allocation and many other legislations that will be processed in that floor. They have also said on the issue of vertical division of revenue, they have downgraded the role of the Senate in deciding the vertical division of revenue. Okay. So as we want, if resources are going to counties, and they have made a very good proposal of varying the revenue allocation to counties from 15% to at least a minimum of 35%. That is a positive variation that we support, and it's something that we are championing as a political party called ANC. Okay. So, but we want the Senate to have a say in both the division of revenue and the allocation of revenue. Okay. We are also opposing the issue of the interfering with the independence of the police service. That is the police. We don't want the creation of the police council to be chaired by a minister. That is diluting the gains that we have secured in the 2010 Constitution. Okay, a lot to talk about, because you have literally outlined the concerns also as the DP William Ruto outlined on Monday at the Bomas of Kenya. It seems we share the same concerns. Okay, and many have been asking the reason as to why he never did so and in appearing before the task force when they went around the country. Michael, coming to you. And from this perspective, when you look at the entire element of the political uncertain times that we've experienced, 1992, Human Rights Watch questioned the election then of Daniel Toroitich arap Moi. 1997, Kibaki had filed a petition because of how the election was conducted. 2007, the post-election skirmishes. 2013, still concerns. 2017, the Supreme Court settled. And all this is simply because of political violence and a culture of political tokenism in the country that seems to be toxic and ill. How do we then, with this report, wholesomeless Kenyans, be able to extricate this self-destruction and ethnic violence from our political establishment?
Thank you very much. I want to join my president there and echo some very important sentiments here. One, I want to borrow a point from whatever you said. He's congratulated John Pombe Magufuli. And it might be very important for us to note that according to the latest report, Tanzania is the next economic hub in East Africa. But that is how exactly I want to answer your question in where did Kenya go wrong and what exactly happened? You see, in an organization setup of any country, you have three main things. You have the social, you have the political, and you have the economic. Now, one thing that people fail to realize is that at the point of independence, we began at a wrong foot. We measured with our economy. The best years in the Kenyan economies are recorded between 69 and 70 there. During the golden era of Tom Mboya's and Mwai Kibaki and the senior Barack Obama, that is when the economy was at its best. But you know what is most surprising is because we began with our economy, right now, where we were is where Tanzania are. Why? Because to get our economy right, we need to create the best environment socially and politically, right? When Mwalimu Nyerere took over the country, he began mending the social fabric. He ensured the country was built on a very strong social fabric, okay? He then brought the politics of ideology. They had to believe that we believe in this. Brought a party which today you would look at and you see that everybody identifies themselves with CCM.
And has proper structures.
Yes, it is an ideology. You see, it's an ideology. It's not the politics of rhetoric that we have here. The instances you've cited, I just want to take you back a little bit. Let's begin in 1992. 1992, we repealed Section 2A of the Constitution, right? To allow for the presidential term limit and multi-party democracy. Okay? All this was in trying to mature our politics. That's right.
Did we?
It's all right. We didn't. Why? Because once we introduced this multi-party democracy, we didn't have or we didn't put into place measures on which political parties should be formed. What we allowed is the formation of ethnic political parties. Okay? So what we are saying is this, that we need right now at our country, our social fabric is done. We are done and dusted. We are people who are built on ethnicity and tribalism.
And that's what the BBI wants to extricate.
And number two, very importantly, our politics is built on a politics of narratives and ideologies. Not ideologies, narratives. We go to 2002, we tell everybody, yote yawezekana bila Moi. We take our problems and put on one individual. 5 years later, we come and say, no, 2007.
One against 42.
And they one is against 42. The problem is one tribe. And the tribe says...
2013 ICC.
2013, it's not even the ICC question. They bring the ICC question, but then the people who get in, they say the problem is digital versus analog. The old people are the problem. The young people should take up the country.
2017.
You see that? We come to 2017, it is those people in system against those who are in system.
Cambridge Analytica also come in.
Exactly. So after all that, the summary is right now that the two politics are divided this. We have the people, and we are that, and the others are saying we have the system. Is that what we want to build? And that is why we can borrow a leaf from Musalia Mudavadi, what he keeps saying, that our economy should be the talk. But then how do we talk about economy where our politics and social fabric is not built?
Still, so you agree with me, that is 2, 3, 4, 5 elections later since multi-party democracy, we still aren't having or do not have a system of political culture that is based on ideologies and policies.
Our politics is infantry.
It
is infantry.
And in that regard then, what doesn't go out of the fraction of the equation here is the political establishment, isn't it?
No.
And we need an overhaul.
What we need first is the social, okay? You know, politics comes after. Politics comes as an organization of the society. The society is the foundation.
So we need a societal setup.
Yes, and allow me to say this. As a very strong believer in the hustler nation, purely. And the ideology, the ideology of the hustler nation is purely borrowed from economically from what is known as the class war. But you see where the class war is borrowed from? It is borrowed from a good setup when you fail to set up the society rightly. Years and years and years come. There is a lot of oppression by a sector, by a very small system, a very small group. So what happens? These people retaliate. So what we needed in the BBI were 3 things, just 3 fundamentals. 1, basic economics. 2, getting the social fabric. 3, building our politics on ideology. And for the first time ever, we are building our politics on ideology.
And it still seem to be struggling despite the democratic credentials that we attained, that is post-multi-party democracy. So before I come to John Mark, let's have this soundbite from Michael. You spoke about this at the Jivanje Gardens and hear what you had to say about 2 weeks ago.
If you start a business at the age of 30, the 7 years are then going to last until you are 37, yet youth ends at 35. We have been told that we are going to be given 4 years before we start paying our help. The pertinent question lies. People who graduated 8 years ago, who simply left university with a loan of 160,000, within the time that has passed has accrued so much interest that it has come to nearly 780,000. Are they liable for that? Will they be helped by that? We have seen the evils of having an imperial president in this country. We don't need to be told about it. We have witnessed it firsthand in our own country. We came at a time where we realized that maybe we don't need a leader of official opposition. We amended the 2010 constitution to suit that purpose. Now we are back to where we started with the opposition leader. We are back to where we started with the imperial presidency. We must, as a country, know that the problem have not been the laws that we make, but the makers of the law and the implementers of the law are the problem. We must also remember this, that whenever we are alive, let us make law, let us put constitution in place, that even when a bad man rises to power, we the people remain protected by the laws that we put in place. In this country, we have a tendency of people, a few clique of people, when they feel dissatisfied or shortchanged by something they passed, they go through another door and keep changing the constitution. Laws are made which look on the face to be very good, but if you tear deep into them, they mean nothing.
Michael, I'll come to that. That statement you made vis-a-vis your support for the Hustler Nation, you said that is the narrative the DP William Ruto was driving. Yes. I'll come to that, and we'll have some soundbite from also another youth leader, Alex Matera, who faulted the DP William Ruto on Monday last week. But President, coming to you, John Mark, in the going forward of what Michael has mentioned literally from the perspective of the HELB, it seeks to amend some section of the HELB Act, and many students appear to be welcoming this, but it doesn't have a total reception, and there are concerns, as the likes of Michael have raised valid points as to what happens for those who have graduated about 8 years ago. So then how do we look around this? How do we work around this? And perhaps if we are to attain a support from the university students who are seeing HELB as perhaps burden on their lives after graduation?
It was a good proposal that I also welcomed it, but now the motive to that proposal is the one that has jittered a lot of young people outside there. If you see, like now, they are saying that we'll have a break for 4 years before we repay our help. But now the young people outside there are asking, what if the problem the young people are asking is the job employment. So the young people are asking, what if I'm outside 4 years after I've graduated and I'm not employed? It doesn't split how now I'm a jobless graduate, but now how is there a mechanism that it has also addressed to the unemployed graduates outside there? It has also talked, if you see the young people are questioning that, that nini, because if you go back by then, how people were repaying their help, they were saying, I think they cut 8% of your salary. But now they have also not split what percent. Do we pay the whole lumplessly or we just pay in bits?
So there's no specification.
There's no specification on that. So, but it's a good proposal, but we need, and that's why we are calling a room for us at least to have a conversation. We need to have more of charter hall meeting to talk to young people so that they can also give their
Okay, but John, even as you seek to relook or amend that part of the report or the other many parts that many have concerns on, then how do you reach out to the task force in this case? What will be your avenue of communication? Because the proponents now say it's done and dusted. There will be no reopening of the report.
You know, the president at the launch at the Bomas, he never gave out the way forward. But now, as things are, the committee, the period of the committee has expired. But why are they having a retreat at Naivasha? So that means they are still amending some section that even to the president's side is not comfortable, and they'll give us the final documents. It's only that they have sidelined some other political affiliation, but for them they feel also this document is not final, and that's why they have gone for the retreat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully then they come to a consensus. Nathaniel, it begs the question: is the BBI perhaps a rendition of what many people might say is the Potemkin village in Russia at some point in the in seeking the impression of Queen Catherine II. And perhaps many in the Ruto end of the political corner who seem now conditioned to look at the goodies it brings, for instance, with the Youth Commission, the Business Incubation, the Senate, the nomination of the 47 women senators, and also the Ombudsman, what it seeks to form in the aspect of the Police Council, rather than the cross-section of the society that feels that the BBI is just concealing or shrouding in secrecy the other problems that bedevil us, for instance, it being a utility for the whole nation in bringing everyone on board.
First of all, the reason why you're seeing many leaders, including my party leader, Musalia Mudavadi, calling for consensus on this report, it is because there are so many issues that are affecting Kenyans at the moment. One of them being the coronavirus. We are seeing a serious surge of the coronavirus around the country, and many people, including people who are close to us, are being affected. So instead of us going through a treacherous referendum that is going to involve a lot of money that will have otherwise been channeled to other more productive sectors, including reviving the economy and ensuring that the healthcare system in Kenya is working again for the benefit of our people, we should have a non-contested referendum. And the reason why we are calling for a non-contested referendum is because these are things we can agree on. For instance, you have asked a good question, and I want to agree with some of the points my colleagues are raising here, is that the bill is not a 10 commandment. This is a living document. These are just proposals. This BBI report is a report just like the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission report. It's just like a Kriegler report.
Dungulan report.
Dungulan
the
report.
Kriegler Commission.
This is just a report like any other. This is not a 10 commandment where people are telling us that you must take this, you must dance this reggae. The reason why we are calling for a consensus on this document is because leaders can sit together and pass these things so that in future we don't have to do another referendum, use other billions of shillings, so that on things that we could have agreed. At this moment, the bill is still amendable. This report is still amendable. Reason being, it has not been submitted to Bwana Chebukati. If you look at the provisions of Article 255.
And it reaches Chebukati after the collection of 1 million signatures.
1 million signatures. The moment Bwana Chebukati has the report, either in the form of general suggestions or through a constitution amendment bill, that is the time he will have to verify the signatures and he will forward the amendment bill
to the counties.
To the county assembly without altering. That is the point when you can say you cannot amend. But until such a time when Chebukati has not received the report, we can still debate as leaders and amend. That is why we have called for this consensus.
Okay.
So that eventually we have a non-contested referendum. And we have highlighted issues that we want changed. For instance, why will you move the women rep to Senate and move them away from the affirmative fund,
That was in
which is cost almost in 2 billion to benefit the issues of women empowerment. These are issues we can debate and alter them. And it's good they're having this retreat. For instance, they have proposed 70 extra MPs to sit in the National Assembly. And if you look at the criteria they're going to use, the population quota, which is about 140,000 elected, voters, that anything above that, then that constituency qualifies for an extra MP. The implication means is that there are counties in this country, constituencies are going to get more MPs than other regions. And there's going to be a feeling of exclusion in terms of voting in parliament and representation in parliament. That means that regions that are going to have more members of parliament are going to have a bigger say in resource allocation, in electing the prime minister, or in vetting or taking certain critical decisions that involve the country. So we are calling for consensus on these sticky issues that can be amended because this is just a report. It is not a 10 commandment. But there are very good things in the report that I support 100%. Among them is that if you look at Article 18A, they have proposed amendment to the shared prosperity to include the issue of economy and shared prosperity. And I support these things passionately because the singular problem facing young people, as my colleagues have said, is the issue of job and unemployment. So when we see somebody proposing something that we should have a way of increasing the cake, ensuring that we have productivity, tapping into the innovation and talent of the young people, that is something that we support. If Murang'a is giving Kenya water, if Murang'a is giving Nairobi water, if water from Dakaini Dam in Kiambu is coming to Nairobi, what is Nairobi giving Kiambu and Murang'a?
Okay.
If Turkana is giving Kenya oil, what is Kenya giving Turkana back?
Okay, more or less.
If Kitui is giving Kenya coal, what is Kenya giving Kitui? This is the topic of shared prosperity.
A case of
They have
symbiotic
highlighted, yes,
relationship.
a symbiotic relationship in this country.
But
not just symbiotic, we must increase the cake. How do you increase that? You tap into the energy of young people.
Okay, and I'll be coming to the young people, which again might promise a rough, tough political battle between the president and Odinga on one corner and the DP on the other, who seem to have been long in the game in terms of targeting young people, and interestingly made vulnerable by the same government that he does sit in. Before I come to Michael, still on you, Nathaniel. And you have mentioned the aspect about this not being, a fixed process. The document is dynamic, it's fluid, it's subject to amendments.
Can it be amended?
But we have members of parliament who today are congregating in Naivasha, and they have excluded members of parliament from the other end of the political divide. And Caleb Kositani, the DP, that is the Deputy Secretary General Jubilee Party, said, we have not been invited. I reached out to the leader of the majority party, Amos Kimonya. He said, because of the coronavirus, we are doing it in phases, yet we have 250 members. Exclusion is right on the end. So where does the voice of amendment, how do we slot in the voice of amendment here when we seem to be having political differences and political players now differing on a process that is set to determine our prosperity as a country?
I think the answer is that for Kenyans to look at leaders like Musalia Mudavadi, this is somebody who has been calling for consensus. But far beyond that is, if you look at what is being said, this is the whole intent of the document is to bring this country together. That is the whole single purpose why the process of BBI was started,
so Parliament
to build bridges. So we should not see situations where there are leaders who are being excluded from these conversations. You will rather have, if you are a true politician, have your opponent sit in the meeting with you, have a robust engagement so that we build a country that is united.
Okay.
Personally, I've never been a fan of some of the sentiments that are being said from the Tanga side. It is because I don't believe they are being true. They have been in government in 2013 and in 2017. We have said it here. It is the Jubilee government under a single ticket called the Jubilee Party that promised Kenyans a manifesto, the president and his deputy. They said, for example, in the 2017 re-election manifesto, they will create 1.2 million jobs per year. And that was a message from the Jubilee Party. They said they will create a double-digit economy. They will build 9 stadiums. So there is no way midway somebody can come and run away from a manifesto they promised. So this report needs to be amended. And as ANC party, we are calling for consensus on the issues we have raised. For instance, when my party leader appeared before the BBI steering committee to validate this report, there are 4 pillars he focused on. And one of them was governance. And he said that there is no harm in having a president, a deputy president, a prime minister, and 2 deputies. But he said that let there be clarity on where power lies. Let us have one center of power. Because we are seeing a situation, for example, in the Nusu Mkate government, we saw Raila and Mwai Kibaki pulling on different directions, and that made that government dysfunctional. If you see what is happening at the moment, is that the president and the deputy are pulling in different directions, creating a situation of co-presidency. That makes the government dysfunctional and unable to implement their manifesto. So we presented as the ANC party that we want power to rest with one individual. We have seen the proposal in BBI in the functions of the prime minister they have proposed. The functions the prime minister is going to execute on behalf of the government are also similar. There is a correlation in the functions of the president. So they have not come out clear to amend with clarity where power will rest. So we want clarity on power.
According to, coming to you, Michael, according to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, youth unemployment remains high in the country. And you talked about the political leaders, who in this case are very critical. But in our case, they seem to be ailed because of their conduct, camouflaging always often, and at times they seem to be flip-floppy on how they conduct their political business. In your view, do you then perhaps think that the president and the ODM party leader should shape hard the Naivasha process so that it immunes the process, the BBI process, even despite opening gates of amendments, that it immunes it from a similar scenario as we witnessed in 2009 when we nibbled away, kicked out a parliamentary system of governance that we should have 10 years from now, from then today, then celebrating the gains of a democracy?
Maybe in a quick rejoinder of what I said initially in the clip that you've just played, I said this. What we have in Kenya is it's a vicious cycle of playing games, you understand? That is, we come out from one, system, we go to another system, and then back to it. Now, we did mention here, and we said very well, the proposals contained in the BBI, as you've said, they are bringing us back to the era of imperial presidency in our country, where the president right now has interfered with the, according to the BBI, interfered with the independence of the judiciary, interfered with the independence of even the National Assembly. Because honestly, if the president is the one who is going to be appointing the prime minister, and in the last clause on that, the provision says, and I want to put it clearly, that in the event that the president has given the candidate for nomination back to parliament and they've not done that, then the president, in his own opinion, is going to elect, is going to appoint
so it's
the prime minister.
Totalitarian power.
Totalitarian power. That is what we have been against, and that one is against the principles of democracy. Number two, still in the BBI, what we are seeing is as if we are going back still to where we started. We went with the parliamentarian system, and then we were able to eject out the leader of opposition, right? That is, we said, in the form of democracy, it's whereby the majority have their way and the minority have their say. In the sense that once somebody is victorious, he is declared. What he does is accommodate the opposition in terms of what do they believe in that is supposed to be incorporated in the government. Whatever is going on in Naivasha as at right now, if we are to quote it and clearly say it, that is a form of ascertaining what I've been preaching and saying, that in fact it's not a building bridges initiative, it's a blowing up the already existing bridges that have been there. Because how can you, in the political divide, what we are trying to bring together is what exactly in the process, right at the heart of it, is what they are tearing apart. We have been trying to bring the leaders together so that they set precedents for the citizens. But already the process amongst the politicians themselves, amongst the leaders, is tearing them apart. And let me just go back to what I have a lot of respect for the ANC.
Nathaniel.
Yeah, Nathaniel. And let me say this. Concerning the DP, I always have my reservation in terms of saying this, that the DP is not running away from whatever is there. There was no agreement in the ticket of 2017 that once they are in government together with the president, they are going to accommodate. There's going to be a handshake. And I still want to take him back to what he said. The handshake was not in good faith. If the handshake was in good faith, it should have involved at least all the leaders in both. It should have involved the camp that was in the opposition and the camp that was in government.
But the president on Monday said, I informed the DP, William Ruto. He even helped me pick some of the members of the task forces committee.
The task force, yes. But how about the handshake?
And
the handshake.
And he himself knew, even he said on a national TV, that Odinga approached him 3 times. And that he informed the president of how it happened. He never wanted to backstab his boss. So he was aware. He was involved.
He was aware, right.
His boss
but then what happened is that the contents of the handshake, you know, the handshake is not just the handshake. It's what came with it. What came with it is what left the DP feeling sidelined in government. Because what happened is that the president is on record again, allow me to say this, saying, not once, not twice, saying that what I'm being told by Raila Odinga, when I do it, I'm saying it is better. Okay? Still on the same conference, he said this, that he was about to hand the DP
the button.
But then the DP went. But did he sit down to discuss with the DP and ask him what were the things that were there? Yes, he was informing him on the BBI. He was informing him on this. Did he sit down to discuss with the DP on what were the shortchanges?
Okay, but the deputy president, unlike the 9 vice presidents who served between independence and 2002, has the constitutional principle responsibility that he ought to be exercising. And he seems to be running away from an economic mismanagement part of the government that he serves in, and is now coming up with empowerment programs targeting the young people in the country who are vulnerable, courtesy of the same government that he today is the deputy president. So he can't run away from an economic damage done to this country when he and the president will be out of the political power in 2022. He still will be shouldering the responsibility.
Okay, fine.
Nonetheless.
Fair enough to say that, but then we are going to look at it from this perspective. And he said it there, that he also have a constitutional mandate because he was on the ballot to continue doing the good work that is there. You see, if they can't agree, the constitution does not also oblige him to agree with the president, even on opinion. They can vary on opinion.
Okay, of course, our opinions can vary in a democracy. We are in a democracy. Unfortunately, it isn't Uganda or Tanzania. Yes, we can vary differ on opinion.
And that is what exactly he's doing right now. They are varied on opinion. Okay, but then he remains that he was on the ballot. So he has a duty to delegate to who? To the citizen, to the electorate.
And unfortunately, Michael, I agree with you. He has that responsibility, and therefore comes the immunity which is constitutional, that he can be sacked, unlike what Moi did to Kibaki at some point.
Yes.
Therefore, it means then that in the long run politically, all these empowerment programs that he's spearheading is tailored towards 2022 course. And we'll be coming to that because you have also, Nathaniel will be responding to that aspect you have made, and you believe in the Hustler Nation.
Yes.
Let's finish up on this. Yes, you have a point.
It goes still back. If you see the current president and his deputy, there's a loophole there because the constitution has not split the role of the deputy president. I thought now by the steering committee would have at least brought some function that at least a deputy president should not just be assigned function, but the function should be stipulated and know these the roles of the deputy president, these the roles of the president, so that going way forward, it can still replicate the same. We have seen having an ambitious deputy president. We have seen the deputy goes and launches this, the deputy president goes and launches this. So, and it also goes back to the cabinet secretary, where it's, I think on page 65, it states that the cabinet ministers may be appointed from among the members of the National Assembly. My proposal should be in such a way that now we are having an opposition office. I think it should be specified at least a third of the cabinet secretary should come from the opposition. At least we are harmonizing. But a situation where you're having the president have the majority in parliament, the president still appoint the cabinet minister that he feels. Is there an
Okay, so in other words, the Prime Minister comes from the majority party.
Of course.
So in our current setup, Amos Kimunya will be the Prime Minister.
Yes.
He will be deputized by Emmanuel Wangwe, who will be further deputized by Maoka Maure.
Yes.
And then you have the President, you have the Deputy President, William Ruto.
Yes.
So what happens to the likes of Musalia Mudavadi and company?
As ANC, we believe in parliamentary democracy.
That is full parliamentary system of governance.
We believe some of the things that happen in parliamentary democracy, that once you lose an election, you automatically become the opposition. The reason why it is that because democracy works that way. The reason why the 2010 constitution secured the majority threshold of 50% plus one was basically for democracy. So in any case, once a presidential candidate loses the election, you automatically become the opposition. That is what the 2010 position killed. And that's why, personally, I am very happy that the proposal in BBI to bring the government back to parliament is a good proposal, because now the levels of accountability will go up. We are seeing a scenario of the opposition leader. The opposition leader should be there. But the BBI proposal itself has defeated itself by saying that we shall only have an opposition leader in the National Assembly, but we will not have an opposition leader in the Senate. I don't know whether you have noticed the opposition leader is missing in the Senate. They have created an opposition leader in the National Assembly, but they have not created an opposition leader in the Senate. So the opposition will only be found in the National Assembly section of Parliament. So having the government in Parliament is a good thing, but also removing the powers of the President, the powers of Parliament to vet Cabinet Secretary is self-defeating in itself. We must have Parliament vetting Cabinet Secretaries. They have removed the powers. The President has a free hand in choosing the Cabinet Secretary, and I don't think that is good. We must have a situation where Parliament vets all public servants appointed by the President, including ambassadors and high commissioners. So bringing government back to Parliament will increase the levels of accountability, and that is a very positive recommendation.
Okay, but on the same mark, you know, the President might have the majority of the MPs. So even vetting, I don't think, because we have seen in several occasions where a cabinet secretary has not qualified. Yeah. But when it goes to vetting, the president just calls and he just qualifies.
So in this case, we have a problem with the independence of a parliament, and I can cite certain examples. In 2009, they kicked out the then Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission chair, that is PLO Lumumba, because he was simply clamping down on them. They even threatened to censure the then American ambassador Michael Renabaga because he talked about their pay hikes. And then at some point in 2013, John Badi said that the money meant for the renovation of parliament per seat costing about $3,000, 300,000 Kenya shillings, can set up a house for someone across the village in some parts of the country. And then in 2018, the VAT your party leader had expressed concerns on, they had acrimoniously debated that, and then money ended up exchanging hands in the toilets of parliament. So with already questioned independence, this further even erodes, isn't it? You agree with me?
Yes, and that's why we are urging people that to look at ANC party, because the quality of leaders we want to produce. On a serious note, we want to prepare young people.
We'll still be holding you to account nonetheless.
Yes,
though.
the quality of leaders. Look at the proposals within ANC. Our MP from Nambale, Sako Bunyasi, has sponsored a bill called the Public Debt Management Authority. So the quality of leaders that we want in this country is that they should be able to espouse the aspiration of the people, particularly young people. So as a party, and somebody sitting from the ANC Youth League, I am pushing for young people to take up leadership positions. They have made a very good proposal on the 15% of the political parties fund to be allocated to political parties that favor young people, especially through elective seats.
Okay.
So young people should take up leadership positions, and I'm happy we are here with the panel of young people. We are capacity building ourselves through these shows. We want young people to take up leadership. And we do away with the ills that are bedeviling this
Okay,
country.
and young people have been very key and critical, even in the first government post-1963. Michael, coming to you.
Yes,
in
that's
that soundbite that we played, you expressed concern specifically on the political establishment in the country, the lawmakers in this case.
Yes.
And more or less what the proposal does contain in the report is a co-option of the Prime Minister by the President. In this case, it means if the Prime Minister disagrees with the President on fundamental issues, he can be dismissed. Or Parliament can sunshine because the President has the majority. And it more or less paints a picture of the killing of Kadu in 1964 that championed for devolution, and then KANU co-opted it, and then we had post-devolution, we killed Majimboism, and today we are revisiting that because we are in just 8 years into the devolved system of governance. What does that portend, the co-option, the killing of the space for thinking and the free thinkers, the independence of individual members? What does it portend for our democracy in the long term?
I think you have just missed out on one more example. The handshake was another way of killing democracy here, okay? Yeah, it was a way of killing democracy, and I'm glad that Nathaniel and his party leader have stood up on that side of the opposition. Because initially before, let's just go back to the government between 2013 and 2017. It is when the former Prime Minister was very vocal in citing the corruption scandals that were in the country. NYS scandal, he was citing them. Where is he right now? We have a KEMSA scandal that is going on. He is very silent on them. So exactly what you're saying is what we are saying, that we need a government that can be held accountable by the opposition. But how then do we have a functional opposition? In my submission there, I said something that is very, very important. In our country, what happens is that our politics are built on convenience. And as you've said, it's all about money making. A deal that can be struck so that leaders can sit on the table and agree that we are going to allocate you this money so that we can come together in the table of consensus. This table of consensus of politicians is not meant for the goodwill of the majority who are out there. It is always meant to further oppress these people. And that is why, in my own view, I'm so glad with the presidential candidate I support, and one that I feel that it was not good for the deputy president, for the president, and the former prime minister to stay in government together. At least one had to get out of this, so that these things can be seen, not to the advantage of the politicians themselves, but to our advantage as young people, and especially as electorate. Because one thing is happening here, and I want to put it very importantly.
And that perhaps might explain why you are supporting the DP William Ruto's
Yes,
cause.
because one thing that I need
Okay.
is the politicians not to sit in a discussion table here and to agree on how to further oppress our people. Because as you said, when the government joined in the KADU, if you look at the KADU and the KANU back then, they had differences not in terms of politicians themselves, in terms of ideologies, which was very clear.
Yes, which was ideological.
It was purely ideological. And that is why even the president himself quoted there and said that back then, young people were brought. But what were the young people doing then? They were bringing ideologies. They were saying, we don't need to get in between the Cold War. We need not to go to be extreme communist or even extreme capitalist. How about we come up with something that is known as African socialism for ourselves?
Okay.
You see, that is an ideology. It is a brand of our own that we can boast of. Right now in our country, what we need is an ideology that we can boast on.
Okay.
And that ideology that we want to boast on is where young people can identify themselves, find a leeway. Because all over the years, they have been built a system whereby even the young people who are coming up, they are still in some of the families. We need our own way, that we come from nowhere and we can rise.
And the president
from nowhere.
in the county of Kisii did say that you can solve your own problems. Before I come to you, John, And in that soundbite, Michael,
Yes.
you sounded so emollient, so positive, so optimist
Yes.
about the country, and you said laws should be made for posterity.
Yes.
But by appreciating, and you acknowledged that you support the Deputy President William Ruto's cause.
Yes.
So what makes you think that he is a good principal observer of the 2010 Constitution when his party in 2014 had supported the security bill, and then 6 years later, he decried the same police that he had undermined in terms of its independence. And there were scandals that had marred the government that he is deputy to. And it seems today still cautioned about the independence of state institutions. What makes him a better leader as a principal observer of the law if given the mandate to be the president come 2022?
Three main things, and three very important things. You see, for you to be a good leader, and especially in the political environment, you have to be in the thick of things to understand what exactly is wrong there and what exactly is wrong there. You see, the one problem that most of us, when we sit outside, are able to do is point an accusing finger. Right now, let me give you a very good example. We had very many, we as young people, at one time advocated we need our representatives in parliament, isn't it? Do we have them?
Yes, we have.
Are they fulfilling our mandate? No. When we hold them accountable, they tell you inside the thick of things is where the problem is. So the deputy president has been there, not even in 2013. He's been there since 1992. He's been in governments. He's been knowing and studying. Right now what he's doing, if you listen to him very, very clearly, he's come out boldly to say that at the center of things and moving forward, we have to seize the diamond formation, and then we have to take the pyramid, okay? The pyramid formation is whereby, the diamond formation is saying, is whereby the majority to the minority. And now not the other way that we've been dealing, from the minority to the majority.
But he never supported the majority, did he?
When?
Well, of course, he never supported them.
When was that?
Well, 2017, he also name-called a community in this country. He even went personal to the IEBC headquarters at the Anniversary Towers. He questioned the independence of the judiciary upon the disqualification, upon the nullification of the president's election in 2017. So what makes him a better leader than he is today, or he has been between 2013 and 2017?
Let's go back
I mean, just a matter of principle.
Let's go back. Let's go back to your statement.
It is good you are auditing
it's good
the
to
statements he's making.
Yes. Let's go back to what you said. In 2017, he was questioning the independence of the judiciary, isn't it? He was questioning this, that the judiciary did not have a problem with the president and the deputy president-elect. They had a problem with the IEBC and its process.
And the IEBC,
so you was asking that.
And the IEBC gave us the president and the deputy
automatically.
president. So the IEBC scheme...
But the president and the deputy were interested parties in the case. So there's no way he could run away with they had representation in
because
court.
the IEBC is the constant factor that gave us the byproduct.
According to the Chief Justice, if we go back to that, according to the Chief Justice, he said, and he talked to the IEBC, saying this, conduct the election in a good way. And even if you come back, still. So the reason why, listen, the reason why the president and the deputy president were being disregarded or being excluded is because it is the end of the means. The means was the problem. And what we are saying is this. The question was, could the decision of a majority again be overturned? And then, let me come back to it. Let me finish.
Do you mean the people, the majority?
Yes.
Do you mean the people?
They went and elected them. That is why they won the election.
But that is
it is
high,
by the majority.
But I think
fine, it is all right.
Michael.
But
so you have to respect the
I think Michael is not being truthful.
Okay, let me
The Supreme Court of Kenya, the Supreme Court of Kenya is a creation of the powers of the people.
The people is
and that's where
the judiciary draws its power, and the power is vested from the people.
Now, how about
so the moment the Supreme Court, in its powers called something generis, it cannot be overturned. The Supreme Court was final. And us, even from the ANC corner, we were dissatisfied with the decision of Raila Amolo Odinga not participating in the repeat election.
That's exactly where
despite
I'm
the fact that he was the main litigant.
Litigant.
So we are tired with the hypocrisy. And that's why we are forging on as ANC party.
That's why.
Allow me to answer this.
Before you go to my case, briefly finish up.
Yeah, allow me to say this. It is inaccurate to say that the deputy president did not respect, because in fact, he said this, there is no problem. Yes, they might have done that, but we are still going to go. We are going to adhere what they said. And he led, as the Supreme Court had directed, to another election, which again they appeared victorious.
But my concerns were that they at the time undermined the independence in a way that they name-called the members of the judiciary.
They were just echoing their dissatisfaction, which is in a democracy you can express.
But you can't call
You
them
can
more
express
corrupt than
And probably that is why they have proposed
no,
the judicial
he's the
ombudsman
president.
to be appointed by the
but
president.
he said that we shall
because
revisit
of the
agenda.
experiences.
Okay, and there was the revisited agenda and the parliament, then in majority
Of course.
Jubilee Party members had underfunded the judiciary, 17 billion for an institution that serves all over the country, yet parliament sits in Nairobi, it has more than 30 billion Kenyan
Yes.
shillings. To be fair,
And in
democracy,
rejoinder of that,
and you're a liberal
he,
thinker.
and in rejoinder of that,
Never.
he's the man who has
That,
stood
that has
there
been
in Bomas.
raised by my party leader
Yes.
several.
And he has stood in Bomas and said very well right now. Everybody hearing it. He has said
He
that
has
the
joined the
independence of
bandwagon
the
late.
judiciary.
The timing.
After
He has joined the
the
bandwagon
timing
late.
is the
It
one
is Musalia
without,
Mudavadi who has been raising
Okay.
this issue consistently.
The
They
timing.
asked-
So Ruto has joined the
Yes,
bandwagon
yes,
late.
Musalia did
me,
do that.
let
Yes,
me
in
just
Bomas.
Yes,
rejoin
yes,
what
John.
Michael has said. The hustler narrative is a good narrative. But now, the party leader of the hustler narrative is the one that is in question. I'll wish that the person who was leading the hustler nation was somebody like Governor Mike Sonko. Because all along he has believed in the hustler narrative, not just for the election time. But now, I want maybe to remind my friend Michael, is Ruto ready to join the real hustler when to come and now leave the mansion at Karen, to come and join the real hustler at Madare now, to start now telling them how they can also overthrow the people that they stay there. Another question to them. I've seen the people that are following William Samoei Ruto, majority of them, they were hustler. But currently, if I ask somebody like Didmas Baraza, it was just the other day, he had only one, he had even no one house. But currently, I see him, he's working with a lot of bashas, a lot of big cars. But if you ask him, is he ready to come back, to fall back to the hustler nation? He's not
So that there is a
ready. So my
uniform-
question is,
Okay.
I would only advise Michael that to take the lead of the hustler nation, because he looks like a real hustler.
Okay.
But he cannot come and tell me that
Okay.
Murkomen is leading the hustler nation,
Okay.
and Murkomen doesn't believe in that hustler.
I
Maybe
take
to
you,
respond to that.
okay, I think because of time, I need to get this soundbite by the Embakasi East Member of Parliament, Babu Wino. Charles, can I have that?
Huyu jamaa honestly anataka conversation. Sisi saizi time ya conversation imefungwa. Saizi it is us versus them. We are not dividing them, but they've taken sides. BBI will pass with or without Arap Kimwarer Mashamba. BBI itapita na 99%. And the wheels of justice, the wheels of BBI shall crush you. We don't want you on our side because you are full of hatred and you want to divide Kenyans. BBI is a unifying factor. BBI is going to help us fight the shackles of oppression. BBI is going to help us fight the bondage of poverty. And whoever is against BBI, that is the devil's agent. And tunajua huyu jamaa wetu mmoja anatumiwa sana na shetani. Maanake hii nchi tunataka unity. When he was with His Excellency the President, he wanted a unified country. But the moment this person we started with, the moment Baba agreed for a handshake to join them together and make one whole country, the person decided to take a different route, different direction. The intention is to divide Kenyans.
That is the Embakasi's Member of Parliament yesterday after a contingent of members of Parliament in support of the handshake. Nathaniel, I'm coming to you.
Yeah.
And the reason as to why we had picked out this soundbite is the us versus them narrative. And what we wanted to prevent, the 2005 scenario, which 1.5 years later had mutated into the post-election skirmishes of 2007 because ODM was born out of that referendum. And it seems we seem to be heading in that direction. So who needs to take up responsibility of pacifying the country in this case? The president, the former prime minister?
First of all, I think Babu Owino is so confused. As a leader of his caliber and as a young person who carries the promise of the future, he shouldn't be making such statements in church. When you say that it is us versus them and somebody isolated himself from the process, it is so wrong. The whole intent of BBI is to unite the country. So it fits the purpose when you are making such statements in church. I believe that Babu Owino can do better. He has come out in the recent past, and I'm suspecting the reason why he's making those statements, it is because he has a case that is ongoing in court. So he's trying to sanitize himself with the establishment that is in power. Babu Owino should come out strongly as a young person and call for consensus on the document, so that the loose ends that are there on the document that we have identified in this show can be sealed, so that we move together as a united country. We can have an uncontested referendum, but we cannot have an uncontested referendum when we see Honorable Babu Owino making such statements. So especially from a young person. And you know, Abdi, there is something that is very fundamental that we have shied away from discussing into details.
Okay.
There are these proposals that are coming out on issues of creating jobs. And as a young MP, I should see him talking about more on the legislative proposals that have been suggested by BBI on how we can be able to improve the welfare of young people. Right now, right in the beginning of the year, Central Bank of Kenya projected that the economy will grow at an average of 6.8%. But after Corona hit us, they revised the figure downward to 1.8%. The economy is going to grow at its slowest in this history. So when we are having a young person who sits in parliament in the name of Babu Owino, making such statements, reckless statements, instead of calling for consensus so that we have a non-contested referendum, that we don't need to use billions of shillings to conduct a referendum when we can agree on the basic issues. Personally, I am disappointed when I see Honorable Babu Owino address the country in such a manner.
Okay, Michael, as an economic student from the University of Nairobi, I'm coming to you on the statistics because it again pits the young people against each other, and they are the underappreciated lot, underemployed, and underacknowledged. Youth under 35 years are the worst hit by unemployment in an economy plagued with freezing of hires and struggling corporate earnings with massive layoffs due to the coronavirus pandemic. And you have adults aged between 20 to 34 accounting for 14.2% of the jobless people in the country. According to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, 34.27%, which translates to 11.8 million Kenyan youth, lack some form of employment. And then here comes the contest and the prophesizing of violence in what appears to be a contested referendum as echoed by Babu Owino. These young people who are unemployed will definitely be the perfect tool for the execution of violence. So it's again for the young people to take up the challenge, to stay away or to be misused. So how do they immune themselves from manipulation?
One thing I have to say, it's very unfortunate because we are living in trying times for the youth. And the reason is because, as Thomas Sankara once said, that he who feeds you controls you. So the one thing that the lack of economic empowerment among the youth makes them a vulnerable group, because whatever they want is just a way to make their own living. So that means that any politician who approaches them with the promise of something good in future, they become vulnerable for that. So one, for the youth to be able to move on and to be able to liberate themselves economically, they need the political goodwill. That one must be there. It is no question about it. And then number two, the few youth whom we have put in place in parliament, they are supposed to be on the front line of championing for the rights of the. And I want to join Nathaniel in saying that the sentiments echoed by Babu Owino, they are unfortunate. Much more so coming from a youth at this point. And then when you make such statements, it means that your aim is geared towards something that is malicious and not for the goodwill of the entire country. Now, if we go back maybe to what we are saying, that what exactly could be the cause of this joblessness in the youth? I've always said this, that one of the things that we have talked about is that the youth in this country are treated as if they are a special group. But do you know why? It is because I'm afraid the statistics you've provided here in the KNBS, they have projections on the growth of population. So it's not like the youth have come from another country to here and now we have started addressing them as if they are people who are disabled. Because one of the fundamental things in economics is known as the development planning. And not planning is actually planning to fail. So what we have done in our country, we have not taken data and statistics seriously. How many youth leave the university? How many of them? What kind of courses should we be giving them so that we can be able to absorb these people in our market? And taking you back to something that is very fundamental, I still believe that the best BBI report that the president has ever prepared, and he should leave to it. And these sentiments were echoed again by the Deputy President,
Yes.
that the legacy of the President must be the Big Four agenda. How? The Big Four agenda, look at them. Number one...
Manufacturing.
No, forget about manufacturing. They're the basic economics. First is food security. Sawa?
Yep.
Then number two, they have talked about affordable housing, universal healthcare, and then manufacturing. We are a country that is intensely depending on processing, not manufacturing. Okay?
So we are a consumer nation.
So we are a consuming nation. Now, when you are a consuming nation, you first deal with the fundamentals, the basic economics of the basic needs of our people. I always say this, there is no hungry man who can make an informed decision.
Okay.
Deal with the basic needs of your country, then bring them now to make a decision in terms of that. But as long as you said, the youth don't even have food, they don't have fund to access good health care, they don't have even anywhere to live. These people are being used as a playground for violence because they've been crippled, and this is intentional, to cripple the youth, and then after crippling the youth economically, they can be used.
Okay. And it is the government that crippled one of the biggest food security agenda, Galana Kulalo project. The Israeli ambassador said, in the history of Israel, have we ever failed to undertake any agriculture project? He ordered his country, the government, to recall him to Tel Aviv because he said in Kenya, it's because of kickbacks and the government 10% of hidden people who run the government who are running the business. Might explain why we have gobbled 7 billion in the Galanda Kulalu project. We ought to have been food secure by now.
Add two things there. There were two investments that were brought by Mukisa Kitui in our country. That was Jackma, and then we have the guy from Nigeria. Okay? Dangote. They still came here, but then the government frustrated them.
Capital flight explains that.
That's what we have been advocating as ANC.
Okay.
That we need to ease the burden of taxation. On a serious note, we need to simplify the tax code, we need to broaden the tax base, and we need to encourage investors. And we need to focus more on export-led economy. That is the only way you can create jobs,
by
as Michael has
correcting
said.
our balance of deficit.
That is the
balance
point.
of payment deficit.
That is the point.
Let me go to
So
Mark,
ANC should be elected to government.
Okay, no problem. We are in a democracy and Kenyans will decide that. Yes, John, you had a point.
I had a point on the Aribak on Babu Owino. You know, I expected Babu Owino, being a former chairperson of SONU,
on Comrade,
of the Comrade, I expected him championing and convincing the young people the importance of the Youth Commission. Now, he has now deviated from the young agenda. Is just like now, there's no difference of him and Commander. I expected him to come out and tell us what will be the young people benefit from the Youth Commission. Him being also a former student at Nairobi University, what will be the immediate impact of the HELB? You remember the HELB issue?
Yes.
But he has diverted from the real issue. Is now the one now agitating for more division and more of shagla bagla. What I know Babu Owino is targeting, they just want the divisive referendum so that they can also take the kickback from the OP and the ODM party, and for him to masquerade as is representing the young people. He doesn't want even to enlighten the young people about the BBI. He just want the divisive referendum so that he can benefit. He can benefit on it and go away.
Okay, so it's a political interest.
And you know,
yes, I'll come to you.
And you know, Abdi, there's something fundamental that the president of Youth Munge is saying. If you look at, for example, the issue of HELB loan, I'm a former Secretary General in Moi University. I served in the 27th Student Governing Council. And I know this issue of HELB, it is a thorny issue that affects many comrades. It should come out very clear. Personally, I'm a beneficiary of the HELB loan. And as a former student leader, I have done quite extensive research on what other countries are doing regarding the student loans. If you, for example, pick the model of South Africa, they have something called the National Student Finance Aid Scheme. That scheme is working very well, that once you will only pay the loan upon satisfying 3 conditions. 1, you must graduate. 2, you must be having a job. And 3, that job must pay you above 35,000 rands a year. That is South Africa.
That's about 350,000?
350,000 a year, the cumulative net income. That means that you will only pay the amount in installments when you have a job that is paying you above 35,000 rands a year. We should have seen such proposals finding their way in BBI and remove the moratorium on 4-year grace period. We should look at a case of some of the federal states in the United States of, United States of America. They have what we call, some of the states, not all, they have what they call the student grants. These grants are given as gift aids to students to go and study. So this country should take the issue of education seriously by making quantum investments. We should see that the national budget saying that 20% of the budget should go to education, another quantum to go to security, food security, like that. We cannot take education as a liability. The country must educate its people to create a pool of assets to serve this country.
Okay.
So I should be seeing somebody like Babu Wino championing because he's a former comrade, he understands this, and once a comrade, always a comrade.
Okay.
So I think he's veering off the script.
Yes, Michael.
Yeah, allow me in a brief way to just remind Babu Owino that back then when we were in campus together with him, and I am sure he can remember this, when he was the chairman and when he was looking for that chairmanship of SONU, there was an issue we had with the HELB issue, okay? HELB issue had a problem of being delayed so much before we received it, such that you could be admitted in the month of October and receive your loan in January. You don't have a way, and people were even frustrated in terms of joining. But then we advocated that issue, and when the Deputy President was the Minister of Higher Education, he ensured that was rectified. Now, to a quick rejoinder on what Nathaniel has said, there is something very important on the HELB issue. If we go back to borrow another template from the Japanese government, this is what the Japanese government does. If they take you on a scholarship, they ensure they cater for your where you live, what you do, that is the basics, so that now you can be able to listen and be able to do that. So what is happening here is that, and then when we are in campus, and I've always advocated for that, and I want to, in a very precise way, to thank one of the leaders who I admire so much, that is Johnson Sakaja. He's the man who came up with a bill in Parliament saying, one, there should be no interest attached to the HELB loan. That is number one. And number two, he also said this, there should be mandatory internship for all the people who go to university, so that, and this should be paid internship, such that even we can start paying this HELB where we are still in school. Because if you can be able to do this when you are in school, you can be able to do it. After leaving the university, why don't we have a provision that those people, the skills that the government has trained these people with, they can take these people, put them also in internship in the government institutions. And I can give you an example with my course. When we finished and when we graduated, a course that was started by Mwai Kibaki, Bachelor of Economics, we didn't have something like that. Mwai Kibaki started it with the intention of having economists at a turnover of 300 economists, both in the University of Nairobi and KU. Bachelor of Economics and Statistics here, Bachelor of Economics and Finance in KU. Mwai Kibaki had the best plan for that, a turnover of 300 economists. These people were supposed to immediately join the Ministry of Planning and Vision 2030 so that they can implement that. But what happened after that? After that, everything went disarray, and now everybody is back in the streets. We were supposed to be planning. Right now, we are supposed to be visualizing Vision 2080. 20, that is where we are supposed to be. But where are we? We are out here with all those skills and with all that knowledge, but then they're not being put into use.
And unemployment. So let me give the last words to John Mark Babu, the President Bunga la Wananchi. What are your thoughts generally on going forward, the student issue, the youth commission, the business incubation across the 47 devolved units in the respective wards that make up the counties, and generally you are feeling towards what appears to be political temperatures that are rising because of the political establishment conduct?
This is a good document, but now the politician has already hijacked the document. So we should leave at least to the good citizen, who I know majority of the Kenyan citizens are civil and they are well informed. So let the citizen at least read for their own. Let's not take, the politicians should not take the advantage of the ignorance of their voters and now telling us what is not in the document, and also they want to manipulate their own citizen, knowing very well that some of the voters, they are not informed. So going way forward, I will just plea to our leaders, let the citizen lead this document, understand, and going way forward, I will do it a situation where we have we go in a consensus referendum where we don't have
30 seconds, please. Waswahili wanasema chururu si ndondondo. I don't know whether we have heard that msemo. Also, if you look at the BBI, it is appearing ni kama sumu ambaye imewekwa asali. So lazima tuangalie hii sumu kama ni sumu
Okay.
ama ni ndimu,
Okay.
lakini tujue hii inaonekana ni kama sumu ambayo imewekwa asali.
Okay.
Ndio maana sisi kama chama cha ANC tunaitisha majadiliano katika hii document.
Thank you. Consensus seeking. John Ababu, thank you. Your time is appreciated. Nathaniel, I
Thank you so
appreciate your
much.
time, and thank you, Michael Munga. Your time is appreciated. In about 20 minutes' time, you'll be getting the 1 p.m. news, and we'll see you tomorrow here on New Day. Good afternoon.
Thank you.